Welcome to the Jerry Acuff Show. We're excited to have you today. I'm really super stoked about having my guest host today is Kathleen DeNooyer.
Hello.
Kathleen is a very good friend of mine and is a fantastic leader here in Dallas, Texas, and someone I've gotten to know recently very, very well. And I'm going to give her the pleasure or pain of interviewing me about the concept of networking, which almost anybody you talk to says is important. So, Kathleen, welcome.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Jerry, as always.
So we're going to a networking event tonight, is that correct?
Yes, so I am the Executive Vice President of the Dallas Junior Chamber of Commerce. We are a young business professionals organization, 21 to 40. And it is my job, especially as one of the leaders of this organization, to talk to pretty much everybody and anybody who can get their hands on me. Which at times, when I get into the spirit of networking and talking to different people, I enjoy it. But it's like you said, either pleasure or pain. It's kind of a little bit of both, just like this right now.
Well, so your age group is, did you say 21 to 40?
Yes.
So I can go because my name is Gerald Joseph Acuff Jr., so I can go to the Junior Chamber of Commerce, but I passed it about 19 years ago.
Well,
no, 29 years ago, because I'm 60. What am I, 68? Whatever. Listen, it is what it is. I'd rather be old than dead. So I'm excited to still be around. But this networking thing is something that I find fascinating because I wrote a blog this week about this, and I remember I was in Las Vegas, and I saw so many conversations just overhearing people, and they would say, and it would be business people, well, I've got a relationship with so-and-so. And so that phrase happens all the time.
Yeah.
However, when you talk to people about networking, most people don't love it.
No.
Most people sort of, dread it because they're not 100% sure what to do. So I thought I would write about, because I've written 3 best-selling books on relationship building, and those books really focus on what do you do after you have the relationship kind of started, or at least you've identified somebody. But I really haven't written much about how do you actually network. And I read an article this week in the Harvard Business Review it's called Love to Network.
Okay.
Or Loving to Network. And it was in like the May 2016 issue. And it had some really interesting things in there. So I wrote a blog about, 3 things that you need to sort of think about differently.
Okay.
In order to be effective as a networker. So is that an important part of what your responsibility is? Because I'm assuming you got so many things to do that without a network of people to help you do it, it makes being a leader in any organization difficult?
100%. It is probably one of the most important things that I do as a leader. Being highly organized, which I am, it's very easy for me. Making sure projects get off the ground, being logistics, also very easy for me. This is one of the harder things for me to do. And it's not just because you have to talk to, a whole bunch of people in order to mine the gold. It's how do you actually mine the gold? You may have this great, conversation with one person, but then are they really going to commit to coming to this committee meeting, to actually doing something for this committee, getting a project off the ground? That's probably my hardest thing, is identifying who is worth something, who's not. And I hate to put it that way, but you only have so many hours in the day, and we all have our own lives to live. So that's kind of my challenge is identifying who I really need to follow up with.
Yeah, and my experience tells me that so much of that is really driven by, how much interaction you have with people. Because once you have several interactions with people, their behavior is usually fairly predictable. Mm-hmm. So if you call them and they call you back 4 times, you're probably pretty sure that they do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
If they're difficult to get in touch with, out of the gate, they're probably going to be difficult to get in touch with. But I really came across 3 things that I think that people would be interested in. So if I'm going to a networking event, what should be going through my mind as I prepare to become someone who's excellent at networking? This article in the Harvard Business Review talked about the mindset. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm a big believer that mindset is so important because what you believe drives your behavior. So what do I believe about networking? And they said in this article that people fundamentally have 2 different mindsets about networking. One is a prevention mindset. In other words, I have to network so that I can make sure I keep my job or keep my my ability to be employed. But I'm not doing it because I want to do it. I'm doing it because I feel like I have to do it. The second mindset is what they call a promotion mindset. And it's not me promoting me, but it's me promoting the idea that by interacting with other people, there will be mutual benefit. Right. So we will advance together, we will grow together, we will accomplish things together, etc. And what they've done is that they looked at these two different kinds of people, and the people that are far more successful at networking have the promotion mindset, and here's why. Mm-hmm. Because it makes them feel authentic.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because the other ones don't feel authentic because it isn't authentic. They're not doing it because it's who they are. It's not doing it because it's their fundamental persona to go out and just be openly helpful to everybody. Now, I'm a big believer that, one of the universal truths is when you give, you get.
Yeah.
And so to me, networking is about me trying to find people that I can share things with that will mutually benefit them, and then hopefully one of these days it'll benefit for me. One of the things I learned about relationship a long time ago is that you give to as many people as you can, but you never know where your getting's coming from.
Right.
You give to get, but you don't know where the getting's coming from. Mm-hmm. If you knew where the getting was coming from, you'd be manipulating them. And so I don't want to manipulate anybody, but if I give to people, then I know that the laws of the universe say to me that some of that's going to come back to me. That's what's called the law of psychological reciprocity. I give to you what you give to me. So the first thing is to have the right mindset, is to go out and say, hey, I'm going to meet some really interesting people. Now, there's two ways to do this. One is you actually go to an event where you know some people that are going to be there that you'd like to meet.
Right.
So if I know that I want to meet somebody, then that kicks in the second part of this new mindset, which is this isn't easy. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be really good at networking, it's not easy. I mean, you got to do several things. The first thing you have to do, which you do naturally, is focus on them.
Or try to. Yeah. It's easier to talk to people when you start pulling information about themselves. All of a sudden, they start spilling out their entire life story, the number combination to their safe, things like that.
Right. But people love talking about what they treasure. Mm-hmm. The problem is oftentimes at a networking event, we're trying to get them to know who we are. And, Ziegler, who, I think is from here, said you get more people interested in you in 2 months than you can by being interested in them than you can by, in 2 years by trying to get them interested in you. So one is you got to focus on them. The second thing is you have to ask great questions. I mean, you actually have to ask them, how'd you wind up in Dallas? What do you do here? What do you like about doing here? What made you decide to do that? If all work paid the same and you could do anything in the world, what would you do? Mm-hmm. If you could take a vacation anywhere, where would you go? I mean, you have to have this genuine interest in people and ask great questions. But then you got to be a good listener.
Yeah.
Because if you ask the questions and don't absorb the information, then number one, when they leave, you don't have anything to write down.
You actually write things down after you meet people?
What I do, no, as soon as I meet somebody, I pull out my phone and I put down what I learned from them in my phone.
Really?
Yes, because there's a note section in every contact thing. And so I'll write down that your daughter's 8. I'll write down that you coach volleyball. Mm-hmm. I'll write down that you're big shot in the Junior Chamber of Commerce. I'll put all that stuff down. Now, I don't need to remember that because of our relationship, knowing you well.
Right.
But until I know you well, how will I remember it? Now, what's interesting here is if I think I'm going to see that person again, then what I do is I go look at their phone contact, and I see what did I write down. Okay, they went to Virginia Tech, and they are a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, whatever. And the next time I see them, I'll say, hey, I saw something about the Steelers. And they go, how'd you remember that? Well, the truth is I didn't remember it. And I don't admit to that, And oftentimes, sometimes I'll say, look, I didn't remember anything. I just happened to write it down. Either way, what it demonstrates is that you really are interested in other people.
Can you search that in your contacts? Normally you try and search a name, but have you ever thought, okay, I know this guy that I met in Phoenix and he's a Steelers fan. Have you ever just searched Steelers and different people come up?
Yeah, no, well, with the Apple phone, if you type in Steelers, anything that's got Steelers on it will come up.
That's brilliant.
Yes, it is brilliant.
I'm stealing it.
It's a great idea. But the other thing that's so important about asking questions, and they talk about in this article, and I didn't really understand this. I'm always looking for, what do people treasure? Because if people start talking about what they treasure, in your case, it might be your family, it might be your business, it might be the junior chamber. In my case, it might be my family or the coaches that I mentor or my business or my virtual training program. You get me talking about that, then we're going to have a robust conversation. Now, in the context of that conversation, two things happen. One is I start to really like you because you make me feel like you give a darn about me. And so the easiest way to make another human being feel valued is simply listen to them. Mm-hmm. And so when you're having this conversation and you get me talking about what I treasure, when that ends, I have this conversation with myself silently, and I say, I like that. And things that we like, we have a tendency to want to do over and over again.
Right.
The second thing that happens is, in the context of that conversation, I'm learning things about you, and what I'm hoping is that you and I can find some substantive shared interest. So for you and I, it might be philanthropy. Mm-hmm. I mean, your whole organization is built around doing stuff for people, right? And I have my own foundation. My wife and I have our own foundation, and we're on the board of 3 or 4 charities and stuff. So, easily we could start talking about this shared substantive interest we have around philanthropy. But I'm always looking for whoever I'm talking to, what is the shared substantive interest? And it could be something as simple as we both like Florida, or, we both like professional football or whatever. It doesn't have to be, that we're trying to solve the Iran nuclear crisis or the Korean nuclear crisis about, that nut job.
I have solutions for that.
I do too, but they involve nuclear weapons. So we're not going to go there. So anyway, the second thing is to understand that this isn't easy. I mean, being good at it isn't easy. Now, one of the advantages you have is that you're organized.
Yeah.
And to me, the best networkers are ones that are actually organized, because they actually do develop a system for how do I actually identify, the people that I want to build a relationship with. Because once you actually meet them tonight, let's say we meet somebody tonight, my objective is going to be to meet them again.
Yeah.
And my sole objective in a situation like tonight is to meet them again. It's to have a real reason to contact them. And so I'll be looking for, in any conversation, is this somebody I could give my book to? Is this somebody I could give my CD to? So that leads me to the third thing, which is, what value do you have to give? And so all of us, Tim Sanders wrote a great book called Love is the Killer App. Years ago. It's a terrific book. And I'm getting ready to tell you everything so you save you money. But he says that the two things you have to share if you want to build great relationships with people is, number one, your contacts, mm-hmm. and number two, your wisdom. Well, that's pretty simple. So contacts is something oftentimes I don't think we think has that much value, but it has huge value. So, for example, in my case, I wrote the book, The Relationship Edge in Business, and I give it to college seniors. Mm-hmm. Any college senior that writes me an email and says, I'd like a copy of your book, I send them one for free. And I sign it, and I put it in a priority envelope, and maybe I'm stupid, but I think this is one of the things you're not going to learn in college, and you ought to get it. So if I find that you have a college-age kid, I'm going to let you know that. Yeah. And so many people say to me, well, I said, well, just have your son or daughter send me an email, give me their address, and I'll be happy to send them one. And so I'm looking for what can I give. So that's part of my wisdom that I can share, but I also can share my contacts. I can say, if you're looking for PR, you need to talk to Jeff Crilly.
Right.
I mean, that's as simple as 1, 2, 3. But I'm constantly thinking about, who do I know that you need to know? Mm-hmm. Because whenever I can do anything to help you succeed, what I do is I bring you closer to me. And the whole idea of relationship building, which is the reason why we network, to build a relationship that has meaning, the whole premise is that I do something for you and you do something for me. It's sort of, how do we ultimately get mutual benefit? And so the first thing you have to do is to actually go ahead and meet some people. And part of this decision-making process is, maybe you meet 5 people tonight that you have substantive conversations with, and you say to yourself, I really enjoyed all 5 of them, but there's probably only one person here who I ought to really target as someone I want to build a relationship with. because I can see how that person might be able to help me and I might be able to help them.
Well, and my problem when it comes to that type of a thing is I'm the sort of the youngest, the idealist. So I'm like, well, maybe all these people can help me. but one of the things I wanted to circle back around to is you're talking about that sort of preventative attitude. I've actually had people come up to me. They know I'm an officer on this board. They know I'm a leader in this group. And they've come up to me and they said, well, I just have to come here because my boss said I have to go to networking. And so they basically just shower people as fast as they can with their business cards, and then they bounce.
Wow.
And when I get home, I sit there and I go through and oh yes, I just spoke to that person. This person goes right in the trash because they clearly, like you said, they're not there for any purpose.
Right.
There's no giving and getting.
Right.
And you really do sort of put it through that lens and make it in focus. Things that I've already sort of learned is that if you're going to be in an organization like this, or if you're going to successfully network, you have to give.
Right.
And that's basically what you're saying. You have to give of yourself.
Yes. And you have to be open to the fact that there's value here in this exercise. You don't know what the value is.
That's
right?
the hard part, determining that value.
Exactly. And sometimes you can't uncover it for a while. But the first question you ask yourself is, do I like being around this person? And so if I like being around the person and I find them interesting, I might find them funny, I might find them unbelievably compelling, then you say, I want a relationship with that person. And that's fundamentally how you and I met.
Yeah.
And so I said to myself, well, this is an unusual person. Not weird. I didn't say weird. Zach's weird, but you're not. Zach's not weird. Zach is like a rock star.
Well, thank you, Jerry.
I'm saying a rock star. Hey, who has no concept of how great he is. That's a whole nother story. That's for another podcast, Zach.
That's why I harass him.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
But seriously, you meet people and you say, gee, I want a relationship with this person. So to give you an example, when I moved to Phoenix years ago, one of my passions is college basketball. Now I played college football, and I can't throw a basketball in the ocean. But I love college basketball, and I mentored the college basketball coach at my coach for the last 13 years. And he's the winningest coach in our college's history, and he's the most wonderful guy in the world. And today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Duger Balcom. Hope you're doing great in Charleston, South Carolina. He was also a guest on this show here about a month ago. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, I listened to that.
Yeah.
Episode 2, I believe.
Yeah,
Yes.
And Duger is he's one of my best friends in the whole world. But Duger got me hooked on actually working with basketball teams. So when I moved to Phoenix, the basketball coach at Arizona State was a guy named Herb Sendek.
Okay.
Now, Herb is the only coach in America to this day who's coach of the year in 3 major conferences. He's the 4th youngest coach in the history of college basketball to 400 victories.
Wow.
It's also like a valedictorian at Carnegie Mellon. So he's wicked smart, and he's just phenomenal coach, and he doesn't know me from Adam.
Okay.
And I ain't nobody, right? I mean, I'm no great athlete. I'm no great anything. But I want to meet him. So I made the decision I want to meet Herb. So I got somebody to introduce me to Herb. But in anticipation of what Herb would say to me, which is this whole third point, what value can I bring?
Yeah.
I go to breakfast with him, and I introduce myself to him. And having Duger as a friend actually helped because everybody knows who Duger is, because Duger's led the nation in scoring, I think, 8 of the last 11 years. And he's just unbelievable. So, but he says this to me, and I knew this question was coming. What exactly do you want from me?
Just flat out, was it
Flat
right
out-
out of the gate?
Well, I mean, we had breakfast and we had niceties, and first place, he's one of the most genuine gentlemen you've ever met in your life, and so he never said it in any disparaging way, but basically, what do you want from our relationship? And I said, look, I don't want a T-shirt. I don't want tickets to a game because I can buy all that, But what I'd like to do is to interact with your kids. I'd like to teach your kids goal setting, how to set and achieve stretch goals. I'd like to teach your kids how to build a valuable business relationship, and that's all I want. I don't want anything else. I said, now if you want me to teach your staff how to recruit, if you believe that recruiting is selling, I'll do that as well.
Okay.
And he said, well, I want all that. So he said, when can you talk to my team?
Tables turned, huh?
Exactly. So my point is knowing what that you have to give is actually a key part of this. So my whole thing is if you're at a networking event and you go with the right mindset, so you go with a promotion mindset and not a prevention. I got to be here. My boss is making me be here.
Yeah.
Well, my boss is making me be here. I'm going to try to make the best of it. The second thing is, I want to go there and understand that it's hard work to do this really, really well. And so what I don't want to do is give my business card to 50 people. What I want to do is to try and identify 4 or 5 people that I can have a meaningful conversation with for 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, learn enough about them to be able to ascertain whether I should put them on my relationship map.
Yeah.
And if they go on my relationship map, then I can start to build a relationship with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think another one of my big problems now that we're discussing this is that when I meet someone that's really interesting, I want to talk to them for more than 5 minutes, but I always get dragged away to meet somebody else. And inevitably I talk to a lot of different interesting people, but again, I guess I like to talk more than I thought.
Well, I think we all like to talk, and we do get caught up in conversations with people that are compelling, and it's hard to pull away. Sometimes you have to pull away. But part of what I try and do is to say to myself, if I'm feeling that way, that I don't want to stop the conversation, then I say to myself, that's the person I want to spend more time with. Now, I may see them the next time for lunch at Taco Bell and decide this person's a bozo. Or I may go at Taco Bell and stay for 3 hours.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think part of it is to sort of discipline yourself to say, okay, if this is a meet and greet, then I want to meet and greet and figure out, is this a person that I want to build a relationship with? Because the whole objective of networking is to build meaningful business relationships. And so if you add 1 or 2 meaningful business relationships to your cadre every month of folks that can help you succeed and that you can help them succeed, within 2 or 3 years, you got 50, 60 new people that can help you in a gazillion different ways, whether you're in my business, which is, teaching people how to sell or consulting with companies, or in your business, which is, in the jewelry design and sales business, or whether it's leading this gigantic organization, that does incredible work, where your network and leadership is crucial.
Yeah. Well, it's been fantastic interviewing you, although I'm not really sure that I actually did the interviewing.
Well, there's the problem when you interview Jerry Acuff. He's going to do a lot of the talking.
You just turn him like a top and let him go.
Yes, wind me up and let me loose. This is Jerry Acuff closing out the podcast. It was terrific having Kathleen today. Kathleen's got a huge responsibility at the Junior Chamber of Commerce, and it does such incredible work. If you're listening to this and you're not a member and you're 21 to 40, then you ought to join somewhere, because they do fabulous work. It's a great place for you to network with other people that are like-minded, that like to be philanthropic, that like to be successful. And one of the things that's 100% true, if we're going to be more successful, we need to hang around with other successful people. You're going to find a boatload of them at the Junior Chamber of Commerce. So get involved with the Junior Chamber of Commerce and get in a leadership position. Make a contribution like Kathleen has. And if you do that, you'll make a difference in other people's lives. And that's why you should always be incredible.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.